Welcome back to the Feel for the Game College Basketball Podcast. This is episode 4, and I'm going to be picking some games from week 3. So, last week was actually a pretty successful week as far as picks go. I went 12 and 3 in games, so pretty good there. Only ones I missed on were Oklahoma and Nebraska. Oklahoma had a big lead, and they choked that and lost. I had Alabama beating Purdue. Purdue beat Bama, and then I picked Davidson versus Charlotte for some reason, which is kind of an obscure game. And I got that one wrong. I picked Charlotte, and Davidson won that one. So 18 game picks this week. There's not going to be anything in this episode specifically about Mississippi State besides one game pick. I know I've mentioned the idea of doing stuff for them, but they played Southeast Louisiana this past week. Didn't look very good. Not sure how good we're really going to be or not, but I'm not going to go in depth anything state on here. Just going to be some game picks real quick. I actually got to go to a basketball game pretty soon here. My little brother plays in about an hour. So gotta get this out fast and then get on the way to that. But I got 18 picks, 18 game picks this week. Starting off tonight, which is Monday, VCU goes to NC State. So I believe this line is 9.5 points at the moment. Actually, gonna check on that. Oh, it's 11.5. So I am gonna pick NC State to win this game, but VCU is a good team. I think it will be closer than that. I don't see them winning by 11.5. I feel like they're a little bit overrated right now. They've actually entered the rankings at number 25. I think this is a good team, but might be a little hasty with that. They have been scoring a lot. They're averaging 106 points a game so far, but they haven't played anybody very good. This will be their first test. I don't think they cover the 11.5. Too big. Next one, Loyola Marymount, who is 5-0, travels to UC Santa Barbara, who is 3-0. So this is a big game for both of these teams that start off the year hot. Loyola Marymount has beat Troy, who's decent, and then they have a solid win at UTEP. As for UC Santa Barbara, they really haven't played anybody great. They did beat San Jose State by 11 at home, but I'm really torn on this one. UC Santa Barbara's favored by 3.5. They're hosting it, but I want to pick Marymount. I do want to pick Loyola Marymount, especially because they've already played 5 games, so they're very into the season, and I'm gonna roll with them. Actually, I think they get a huge win here and be to get to 6-0. Next game, Oregon State at Oregon. The Civil War of basketball. We found the line here for this one. 14.5 Oregon. I'm really just picking this game because it's a rivalry. I think Oregon wins. I don't think Oregon State's great. They are both 3-0. Oregon State. Not any great wins though. They beat North Dakota State by 2, University Illinois Chicago by 3, and North Texas by 2. And all these were home games. So I don't think this team's great. Going on the road now, I think Oregon takes care of business here. So that does it for Monday games. Tomorrow, Tuesday, I have both the games that are at Madison Square Garden. Trying to remember what this thing is called. The Champions Classic. Yeah. So game one's Michigan State versus Kentucky. Kentucky 3-1. That one lost to Louisville on the road. Michigan State 3-0 with the win at home against Arkansas. Kentucky's a team that's going to be have highs and lows this year. They will get very impressive wins, and they will lose some games that maybe they were favored in and stuff like that. That's just how it's going to be. But their highs are very high. I do think this will be one of their highs. I think they beat Michigan State here, but I do expect it to be a competitive game. They're favored by 5.5. I think that's about right. And then the second game that night is between, can't find it on here, Kansas and Duke. Kansas at 3-1. That one loss coming to North Carolina on the road. They had a lead at halftime and then got dominated in the second half. They were actually up by 8 at halftime and lost the second half by like 21. Duke 4-0. They have a win over Texas, which is really altered their name. That's good on the resume. But they have really dominated in their other 3 games. I like them to I like them to beat Kansas here. I don't think Kansas is that great. Duke's favored by 10.5 points, which is just crazy. I think they take care of business and win this one. So moving on to Wednesday, got 4 games here, including a huge one between a Big East and Big 12 team. Those two are Arizona and UConn. 4 versus 3, and it's at UConn. I expect this to be a really competitive game. UConn coming off a good game with BYU, where BYU battled back, only ended up losing that one by 2. It was on a neutral court. And then Arizona obviously has that win over Florida, and they did just pick up another good one against UCLA on a neutral court in Los Angeles. But I'm going to take UConn. Arizona's having to go cross country. Not many teams go into UConn and win, so I got to roll with the Huskies here. Our next game is going to be between two teams that have, well, I'm not going to say Dayton has been a letdown because they weren't expected to be great this year, but Marquette has been a letdown, and those are the two teams in this game. Marquette is hosting this one. They already have two losses to Maryland and Indiana, and for Dayton, they have that loss to Cincinnati. I don't really know what to expect in this one, but whoever loses this game, I think their season's really not going to go the way that they want it to go, and it's kind of already trending that way for Marquette. But they do host this one. I think they get this one barely, 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 barely. Really, just because they're at home. If this one was at Dayton, I would pick Dayton 10 times out of 10. But it's at Marquette. They really, really need this game. I think they get it. So our next game is between USF and Oklahoma State, and that is going to be USF traveling to Oklahoma State. USF with some high aspirations this year. I think they were picked top 2 in the American. Some people picked them to win the American. They're 3-1 though. They have a loss to George Washington by 4, but George Washington is a team that a lot of people are high on as well. So that's probably not a bad loss at all for the Bulls. And then Oklahoma State 4-0. They had the blowout win against Texas A&M. Obviously, anybody that's really plugged into college basketball knows about the Auburn win in the exhibition game about a month ago. So this is a team that's on the rise. They're hosting this game. USF is good. I think this will be a competitive basketball game, but I like Oklahoma State probably by about 10 points in this one. And our final game on Wednesday night is between Alabama and Illinois, and this one is in Chicago. Hold on, this app's giving me problems scrolling here. So obviously Alabama coming off the loss to Purdue at home. They need a response. And also, they have the great win against St. John's. So for Alabama, this has been a really, really tough start to the year. They played North Dakota first game, which is easy, but then St. John's, Purdue, and then Illinois, really tough start. Illinois is 4-0. They've also been tested. They played Texas Tech at home and fended them off by 4 points. I think Alabama responds here and wins this game. I think they do. Bama, like I was talking about Kentucky as a team that will get a lot of big wins. I think Alabama's the same team, but they'll also take some of those losses too, like they did against Purdue. But I think this is one that they get here, even though it's going to be more of a home game for Illinois. I'm just not sure exactly what kind of ceiling Illinois has. I know what kind of ceiling Alabama has, so I'm going to go with the Crimson Tide. So moving on to Thursday, we've got a couple games here: Mississippi State versus Kansas State in Kansas City. Oh, I'm torn. I'm torn. I want to pick State, but they haven't shown me much this year to make me think that I can trust them to win this game. They they're not good at handling the basketball right now at all. At all. Pressure really gets to them. Iowa State exploited that to the tune of 26 turnovers. And what's crazy too is if you don't look at the turnover stats, or if you look at every other stat besides turnovers, you would think Mississippi State won this game on the box score. But I mean, you can't be minus 17 in the turnover margin. Kansas State, I don't think they're a great team or anything. I think they're solid, but I'm gonna go with State mainly just because I'm a State fan and we really need this game. But either result would not surprise me at all. But State's just got to clean up how they handle the basketball, and if they can do that, I think they can win this game and hopefully have a good season. Despite some of the signs we've seen early that might not be the case. So our next game that day is Wake, who barely came up short against Michigan. Really kind of chugged that game away, playing Texas Tech at the Baja Mar tournament. I like Texas Tech in this one. They already took a tough loss to Illinois on the road. I do think Wake is a solid team, but sometimes teams will really get up for a big game and perform and come up just short and then get blasted the next time. And I unfortunately think that's kind of going to be what happens to Wake. I don't know if they necessarily get just murdered, but I think it's going to be a letdown game for them. People will probably expect this one to be close, but I like Texas Tech by 10, 15 points probably in this. So Saturday, oh, never mind. No, Friday. We got 4 games. South Carolina plays Butler in the Greenbrier tournament. Neither of these teams are expected to be great this year, especially South Carolina. They've already looked sketchy. They went into overtime with Southern Miss, and then I think Southern Miss won off and lost to a SWAC team the next game. So bad look there. Butler's 3-1. They lost to SMU on the road, but it was a very hard fought game. So good signs for Butler there. Butler is a capable team. When they get hot shooting the ball, they're hot. I like them to win this game. I don't really know what South Carolina is right now. There hasn't really been a game to point to that you can be like, oh yeah, this team's good. Like they just haven't really shown that yet. And Butler's shown flashes, so I'm gonna take the Butler Bulldogs in that one. Next game, Wisconsin versus BYU. Wisconsin is another team I believe has not been tested yet. Let's see what they've done. They're 3-0. Yeah, they haven't played anybody. They're number 23, kind of just hanging out on the fringe there. BYU really had people sketched out in that Delaware game and had me sketched out in the Villanova game a little bit, but I still think they got enough to beat Wisconsin here. I'm not super high on Wisconsin. I don't know if that's going to be a great team this year. I'm sure they'll be in the tournament, but I don't know. 23 might be kind of high for me for them. But I like BYU, especially because this game's in Salt Lake City, so right down the road from Provo. So essentially a home game for BYU. I think they win that one. And then also in the Greenbrier tournament in West Virginia, Virginia versus Northwestern. These are two teams that were or are consensus expected to be pretty mid this year. Hold on. Okay. Both of them are 4-0. Virginia, no wins against power competition. Northwestern did beat DePaul on the road by 2. DePaul is terrible, so not much to take away from that one. I like Virginia here. I just don't think Northwestern's very good. So rolling with the Cavs in that one. And then finally, Louisville travels to Cincinnati. I don't really care that this game's at Cincinnati. I think Louisville's very, very good. And I think they go out and get a big win here on the road. They just got some guys that can shoot the lights out of any building, and that travels. And I think that's gonna be the difference in that one. So now to Saturday. Only one game here. This game's not great, but I wanted to put one game on Saturday at least. San Francisco versus Minnesota at the Sanford Pentagon in South Dakota. Neither teams look great. Minnesota played a pretty good half against Missouri and then got blown out. And then San Francisco lost to a Memphis team that I don't think is very good. They just lost to UNLV at home by like 14 points, and UNLV has 2 mid-major losses already. So bad luck there. Actually, I want to see what Minnesota's done outside of the Missouri game. If I can get to it here. They're 3-1. They had to go into overtime to beat Green Bay. Like, San Francisco's 3-1. They did beat Bradley, which is a solid win. Um, I'm gonna go with San Francisco. I am. I think this is still a good team. Memphis is gonna be a team that's up and down. They're gonna get a few nice wins. It will just happen. It will. But I still don't think that's a team that's gonna consistently be good, as we've seen with the Ole Miss and UNLV losses, especially the UNLV loss. But I like San Francisco in this game. Talking a little bit too much about Memphis there, but yeah, San Francisco. And I got 2 games on Sunday. Virginia and Butler play in the Greenbrier tournament, and South Carolina Northwestern play in the same thing. So just switching up those matchups there. Virginia versus Butler. Really torn. I'm really torn on both of these games, to be honest. I am. I'm gonna have to look at these. Look at these games a little bit more before I make a pick here. Hmm. I'm not super like informed about these teams yet, and a lot of them haven't really played anybody. I do think South Carolina gets one win here at least. I don't think they go 0 and 2, so I'm gonna take them to beat Northwestern. And as for Butler, I don't know if I want to pick them to go 2 and 0 because they're always a team, not always a team, but there's sometimes a team that starts off hot and convinces you they're good, and then kind of just crumbles. Um, I'm gonna go with Virginia over Butler. So I'm taking Virginia here and South Carolina here, but between Butler and Virginia, really torn. I am going to be picking South Carolina for sure, but yeah, I'll stick with Virginia and South Carolina in this one. So that's all these games. That's 18, I believe, in week 3. Overall, now I'm 21 and 14 on picks, so 60%. Not great, but definitely an improvement from where I was at after week 1 at 45%. So hoping to do good this week. If I could do 15 and 3 or 14 and 4, that'd be great. That'd be great. Maybe some state content coming out tomorrow. If I do want to record that, I will have time for sure. We're going to be recording the college football podcast tomorrow and kind of doing a live reaction with the playoff rankings. And I'm going to be there early because we film it at the place I work. So once I get off work, I'll have a couple hours to maybe record state basketball content if I decide to do that. Kind of just down on them overall right now. Kind of been disappointed with what I've seen. So I don't know if I'm going to feel like doing that just because of that, but that's a possibility that I just want to tell you all about. But that'll do it for episode 4 and the week 3 picks.